Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics.
Christ is in our midst. Today, on Sunday, October 29th, we commemorate the 7th Sunday of Luke, as well as Saint Anastasia, the Martyr of Rome, and our righteous father of Abramius. Saint Anastasia, who was young in age and lived in a convent, was seized by the impious. Confessing Christ openly and with boldness, and enduring manifold torments, she was beheaded in the year 256 during the reign of Valerian. Made most pure, O righteous one, with chaste virginity's waters, and washed in martyric blood, O Anastasia, thou granted unto those in need the healing of every illness, and to those who come with love, thou grantest salvation, for the wellspring of unfailing grace, even Christ God bestows power on thee. Regarding Saint Abramius the recluse and his niece Maria of Mesopotamia, our righteous father Abramius, born in Edessa in Mesopotamia in 296, took up the monastic life, and brought many pagans to Christ. Mary, his niece, upon the death of her parents, joined Abramius at his hermitage, and under his guidance advanced swiftly in the love of God. Through the wiles of the evil one, however, she fell into sin, and falling from them into despair, she left her uncle and became a harlot. When he learned where his niece was, Abramius put on the clothes of a man of the world and went to visit her in disguise. Through his exhortations, Mary returned to her first hope in the mercy of God, was rescued from the life of harlotry, and ended her life in great holiness. He himself reposed in the year 366. Saint Abramius and Mary were friends of Saint Ephraim the Syrian, and it was he who wrote their account. The image of God was faithfully preserved in you, O Father, for you took up the cross and followed Christ. By your actions you taught us to look beyond the flesh, for it passes, rather to be concerned about the soul, which is immortal. Wherefore, holy Abramius, your soul rejoices with the angels. You, while living in the flesh, was an angel upon earth, and through your ascetic pains you did become like a great tree, planted by the streams of temperance, increasing greatly with rivers of your tears. You did cleanse away the stains, O Abramius. For this cause, O godly vessel of the good Spirit, are you. From St. Paul's letter to the Galatians. Brethren, knowing that a man is not justified by works of the law, but through faith in Jesus Christ, even we have believed in Christ Jesus, in order to be justified by faith in Christ, and not by works of the law, because by works of the law shall no one be justified. But if, in order to endeavor to be justified in Christ, we ourselves are to be found to be sinners, is Christ then an agent of sin? Certainly not. But if I build up again those things which I tore down, then I prove myself a transgressor. In other words, if after becoming a Christian I build up again iniquity and sin, then I am a transgressor. This is not a fault of Christ, it's a fault of my own. For I through the law died to the law, that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Christ. This is a very important quote that St. Paul is going to say here. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Because through the law, we would always fail. There is no way that we were ever going to succeed in the law. Everyone failed by the law. But through faith in Christ, we can be justified and we can have salvation. From the Gospel according to St. Luke. At that time there came to Jesus a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue, and falling at Jesus' feet, he besought him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. It's very important that we understand the message here. This 12-year-old girl, little child, is 12 years old. 12 is symbolic here. 12 for the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 for 12 apostles. We're going to see some completion here in this. But let's focus on this. So Jairus is a ruler of this town. As he went, the people pressed around him. So everyone is pressing around Jesus. We have to remember that when Jesus Christ was going from town to town to town, thousands of people wanted to see him. Thousands of people wanted to interact with him so that they might be healed, so that they might hear what he had to say. You know, this was a celebrity. It was like a rock star in town, and so everyone is wanting to get near him. Meanwhile, Jairus, all he wants is to get Jesus to his house, because he feels that if Jesus Christ can get to his daughter, somehow she can be saved. And a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years and had spent all of her living upon physicians and could not be healed by anyone, came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her flow of blood ceased. So again, we have this number of 12. So for as long as this little girl has been alive, this woman has been suffering. And so her suffering, her hemorrhaging, her womanly flow was not stopping for 12 years. But her faith was such that she thought, if only I touch the fringe of his garment, if I can just touch the fringe of his garment, I can be healed. This is one of the reasons why you sometimes see the faithful, when the priest is doing the great entrance, they will reach out and touch the phalonion, the garment that looks like a cape on the priest, with the idea that if I touch this, because the priest is symbolic of Christ, that I can be healed. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter and those who were with him said, "Master, the multitude surround you and press upon you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone forth from me." Now, of course, Jesus Christ is God. He knows exactly what has happened. But what he is doing is he is trying to showcase the faith of this woman. Because as we just read from Galatians, it is faith that heals us. It is not works of the law, but faith in Christ Jesus that saves us. Meanwhile, of course, Darius is probably losing his mind. He's thinking, why are we stopping? Yes, people are touching you. Why are we stopping when my daughter is dying? And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking, a man from the ruler's house came and said, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher any more." But Jesus, on hearing this, answered him, "Do not fear, only believe, and she shall be well." And when he came to the house, he permitted no one to enter with him except Peter and John and James, and the father and mother of the child. And all were weeping and bewailing her. But he said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. Now, this is a very, very troubling and raw, emotional scene. A 12-year-old girl is dead. They all see that she's dead. And so Peter, James, and John are crying. The parents are crying. The relatives are crying. Everyone is weeping. And they're so sad because this little girl is dead. And when Jesus Christ says something so crazy in their eyes, she's sleeping, they see that she's dead. And so when you're confronted with something so ridiculous, you start to laugh. Not out of, mockery, not out of ridiculing Jesus, and certainly not out of mirth. But when you're confronted with something so awkward, all you can do is laugh like, "Oh, you think she's sleeping." But taking her by the hand, he called her and said, "Child, arise." And her spirit returned. She got up at once, and he directed that something should be given to her to eat. And her parents were amazed, but he charged them to tell no one what had happened. This, very similar to what we saw a few weeks ago in the raising of the widow's son in Nain, is important because, again, we are seeing Jesus Christ is Lord of the dead. And this is, of course, all culminating because this is one of the three resurrections that Jesus Christ performs. He performs the raising of the widow's son in Nain, he performs the raising of Jairus' daughter, and of course he raises Lazarus from the dead. And these are all three different times of death. So with Jairus' daughter just now, she had just died. So some might argue, well, maybe she wasn't really dead. With the widow's son in Nain, the burial procedure of the Jews is within 24 hours of death. So they might say, well, perhaps he seemed death. Maybe it was a coma and he came back. But with Lazarus, there is a reason why Jesus Christ waits 3 days and comes after that so that everyone can be sure, truly sure, that Lazarus was dead, to show that Jesus Christ is the resurrection and the life, the ruler of life and death, and he came to save all life.
I hope that you've enjoyed today's Spiritual Calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.